Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, along with my partner, Mel Farr. And first of all, Mel, great to have you on the broadcast.
Great to be back. Appreciate it.
We enjoy having you every week. So now it's opening night of the National Football League. Why don't you let our listeners know the teams for whom you played in the National Football League representing the Shield?
Yeah, it was the Los Angeles Rams in another lifetime.
Wow, everything seems like another lifetime with us, isn't it, partner?
There's no question about it.
Well, and tonight's lifetime, we're going to talk about the opener. Houston Texans are at the Kansas City Chiefs. The last time they played was 8 months ago. Patrick Mahomes overcame a 24-0 deficit that ultimately propelled the Chiefs to their first Super Bowl title in 50 years. Both Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes got paid, which is good. They're estimating about 17,000 fans in Kansas City, 22%, and they're comprised of mainly season ticket holders. First of all, why don't you break down the game, the matchup, and then we'll talk about the fans because there's a couple storylines here. We'll do a prediction later on before we close.
Well, you got the two highest paid individuals in the NFL going at it. Obviously, they're much earned. Those guys earned those contracts, and they're well overdue. And I'm glad for the players that they're able to maximize their dollars. And I'm sure they're looking forward to. I'm sure they're chomping at the bit to get out there. They didn't have any preseason this year. So I'm sure they're chomping at the bit to get out there, and I'm anxious as well to look at it to get some sort of sense of normalcy once again in my life. So it'll be good to see the NFL kicking off today. Now, as far as the matchups are concerned, I like Kansas City. I like Andy Reid. I like how they finished off last year. I mean, I think they're on a 9 or a 12 game win streak right now. I can't remember exactly what it is, but they're a pretty hot club right now, and they're playing very good football at the end of the year. The defense gave up a little bit, whereas the offense would always have, Patrick Mahomes would always have to rally the troops and put up a lot of points, and the defense would hold in the second half. They were kind of weak in the first half, and then they'd figure out whatever and hold them in the second half, and then the offense was able to put points on the board. With Houston, they obviously they lost their receiver, traded him. Right. Yeah, they traded him in the offseason, got David Johnson back. I would assume that they're probably going to be trying to have a more balanced attack, take some of the pressure off of Deshaun, which is always good. But in this matchup, I like the Chiefs in this matchup, and I just think they're what they did in what they were last year, and what they've done in the offseason as far as keeping their players and obviously rewarding Patrick Mahomes. I think that they'll come out on top on this football game.
Yeah, I'll ask you for a score later, but yeah, I think it should be interesting. Let's talk about the fact that they're estimating about 17,000 fans in Kansas City, 22%, and they're figuring they're going to be comprised of season ticket holders. Some teams are not having fans. The Chiefs appear to be doing this. Are you in favor of that?
Well, some states aren't going to allow those type of gatherings, no matter what.
Right.
In California, you're not going to be able to gather for I don't know how long. You'll be able to have a crowd at a football game based on the orders from the governor. Now, obviously, Kansas City, it's different there. They can, they can have some people there. Arrowhead is a very loud place to play. It is, and that's obviously an advantage that Kansas City would normally enjoy by having a capacity crowd there. By not having a capacity crowd there, I think it might take away home field advantage somewhat because obviously it's not going to get as loud there as it normally would. But I think it's good for those people to give them some sense of normalcy. I think it's good for the players to be able to look up there and see some fans. But again, like I said before, when you're out there playing, you really don't. Other than when you're on the sidelines coming out the tunnel, you really don't notice the fans. You're out there really focused on what it is that you have to do, focus on your job and what it is you have to do to complete your job. You really don't hear it. It's really just like I can't explain it, but it's a silence, because you're just that tuned in on what it is you have to do. So I don't think that that's going to play a big role, but I think that the guys are going to be, I think because it's been so long since they've gone against anybody other than their teammates, I think that everybody's going to be excited to be hitting somebody else. Yeah,
it's amazing how you say that, too, because I actually went to a game at Arrowhead Stadium, and you are so right. It is really, really loud in there. But when you look at the fact that the NHL bubble and the NBA bubble haven't had any fans, and you'll have at least a few, you're right. The main objective for a player is don't think about what's in the crowd. Focus on, as Bill Belichick would say, do your job. And that's what they're really looking at. When we break down this matchup, though, a little bit, we'll talk about the Texans per se. And I think the thing that's important is their offense did go went a dramatic makeover with the departure of DeAndre Hopkins and Carlos Hyde, but in their place came in Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb, along with a healthy David Johnson at running back. And their defense still does have J.J. Watt. So, Brandon Cooks, I don't know how well he's going to do, but, Cooks and Cobb are contributors, and who knows what will happen with Deshaun Watson. But regardless of that, when you think of the fact that Deshaun Watson got $160 million, not a bad week for the guy, and that Patrick Mahomes got close to $500 million. Actually, when you think about Watson, he signed a 4-year, $160 million contract extension. But I'll go back to what you always say. Don't look at the regular number of that contract, only the guaranteed money, because that's exactly what NFL contracts are like. But let's talk about let's talk about Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb with David Johnson. Do you think that they're formidable additions?
Brandon Cooks, I think, as long as he's able to stay healthy, he can stretch the field, and he did that in every place that he's been. I mean, he's always been able to command quality draft capital when he's been traded. I mean, New England traded a 1 to get him, and then they traded him to the Rams and got a 1, if I'm not mistaken. So he's always commanded, good draft capital. Because he's got good speed, he can take the top end off of a defense. The big thing with him is just making sure that he's able to maintain his health, and hopefully he's able to do that. And that's the same thing with David Johnson. I mean, he had a very productive rookie year, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 1 or 2 years he was very productive, but then the injury bug has kind of got him the last couple of years. Obviously, running backs don't get younger; they get older, and so that also has an effect on their ability to be effective. Randall Cobb, he's a little long in the tooth as well, but he's a great possession receiver. Do anything that you want him to do. He's a very tough guy. I mean, had some fantastic years up there in Green Bay, but once again, health has been an issue with him the last few years. So, I mean, these guys stay healthy. They have an opportunity to compete in the AFC South. I don't see you got Jacksonville there. You got them. You got Indianapolis, and you got Tennessee in that division. So, Indianapolis, I think, is going to be pretty good. I think that Tennessee is going to definitely be good. Jacksonville, we know they're going to struggle.
Right.
So, so who they have to worry about in their division is Indianapolis and Tennessee. So, if they're able to compete against the likes of those two teams, and they might have an opportunity to take to make it to the postseason. But a lot of it's going to depend on the health of their guys. I don't know how deep their roster is, but obviously a lot of it's going to depend on the acquisitions that they got, the health of the acquisitions that they got this year.
Good point. Well, J.J. Watt's healthy. At least the Texans have a puncher's chance for sure. So I think you're right. J.J. Watt, to me, is...
And that's not a guarantee.
No, that's true.
Not a guarantee.
No. Well, I said if. So, yeah, you're right. It's anything but a guarantee. All right, let's talk about another guy that changed area codes but didn't have to go very far, but went up I-75 to do it. Josh Rosen lands in Tampa. What are your thoughts about Josh Rosen as a Tampa Bay Buccaneer? I think it's a great move for him. Now he can actually work with Bruce Arians, sit behind Tom Brady. He's had 2 indigent situations, beginning with the Cardinals and the Dolphins. And I'm glad you brought up the Brandon Cooks, though, for a moment, where he has brought in good draft capital. I want to just praise you on that. Well, back to Josh Rosen. Good spot for him in Tampa?
I believe so. I've never been very high on the kid. I've said that a few times. Right. But there's no better place to learn than behind Tom Brady. Number one, to show you how to be a professional, how to prepare. And then, Tom Brady, he wasn't a high draft pick. So he's going to show you, what it takes in order to be a professional and succeed at this level, the amount of work that you have to put into it. Unfortunately, being a high draft pick like he was, and he really didn't have anybody to sit behind and really learn how to be a professional when he was in Arizona, because he was kind of thrust into that spot.
Right.
Somewhat soon, being a high draft pick. I thought that going up there in New England would have been a good spot for him to learn from Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels. But right now, if he's able to learn, it might give him an opportunity to secure a backup position somewhere, or maybe if when Tom Brady retires, maybe he can be the heir apparent. I don't know, but we know he's with good people there, with Byron Leftwich and Bruce Arians, and obviously with Tom Brady, he's in very, very good company there. And if he can't succeed after leaving there, if that's what happens, then obviously his professional football career is probably over.
No question about it. Well, I think the Patriots had a chance to draft him. They did not. But it's so funny now how sometimes fate has a tendency to turn itself in certain ways.
Well, not draft him. I thought maybe they might trade for him in the offseason. Obviously, this is before the Cam Newton situation came up.
Right. Okay.
Before they were even really linked with Cam. Thought it might be an opportunity. Thought they might take a flyer at maybe giving up a low round draft pick and take a flyer on the kid.
Right.
And because he was obviously, a lot of people thought quite a bit of him. He was a 10th overall pick, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So a lot of people thought he had a lot of talent. So I thought they might take a flyer at him since they had an opening. Well, and they had an unproven guy as the backup, and bringing in I forgot who they brought in. Was it Josh McCown or somebody, some old guy they brought in? I thought
Brian Hoyer.
It wouldn't have cost him much to take a look at him.
No, you're 100% right. I think during the draft process, New England looked into him, but yeah, you're right. He did have a chance to land there again, but that never worked out. And the Dolphins ended up releasing him. They probably figured they could get him for nothing if they wanted, but by then he had Cam Newton. So it's interesting how the quarterback situation plays itself out. But in reality, you really are 100% right. Okay, I know that New England talked about drafting him, never worked out. Had a chance to get him during the offseason. That didn't work out. Landing Cam Newton, well, I think that move will ultimately be a wise decision for the Patriots. And you're right, if Josh Rosen cannot make it in Tampa now, I don't know, maybe the XFL, one would never know, right? But we'll have to see whether that league ever gets rebooted.
It's supposed to be. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson bought the XFL for $15 million.
Yeah, and
I think that the league is in the right hands to succeed. I'm looking forward to what he can do with that league. When it folded, I said that the young people need that league. Guys need to get live reps,
right,
in front of good competition. In order, some guys, it just, that's what they need. They don't get the opportunity. You don't get that many reps in camp. When you have a camp and you're bringing in 90 players, you don't get that many reps. You don't get that many opportunities to show what you can do. This gives those guys an opportunity to show what they can do, so they can get into the camp where people know what they can do versus trying to prove what it is that you can do. You're not talking about looking at what you did in college. Talking about what you did on a professional level, playing against very good football players, and especially at the quarterback position. I mean, the quarterbacks need live reps. They need those live reps, and all that's going to do is make that position better. Because people miss. Like you see with Josh Rosen. I mean, people miss. Baker Mayfield, if he doesn't turn it around this year, they're going to be talking about he was a bust. So you need to get those live reps for those guys, and I think it'll be great. And I'm looking forward to seeing what The Rock is going to do with the XFL.
Oh, that makes two of us. So let's face the reality. Vince McMahon made a lot of promises and bombed both, but Johnson's a different animal. I hear he really wants to do it well. I believe is it his ex-wife or girlfriend, is a part of this operation too. So, yeah, I think the XFL does have a good upside. In fact, we actually have a link to their XFL hub on our website as well, if you ever get a chance to check it out, by all means. So we're glad that we have an opportunity to promote them. And you're right, it's all about getting live reps. So, $15 million to buy a league and straighten it out and get it going. If it's done the right way, there's no reason to think that anything Dwayne Johnson puts his hands on won't turn around. I have the utmost confidence that it could be indeed something to look forward to down the road. We'll see how that plays out, but you're 100% right. Another guy that looks like he's found a spot in Tampa, Leonard Fournette. My goodness, all these Sunshine State players are meeting out in the Tampa area. Fournette from Jacksonville down to Tampa. Rosen from Miami to Tampa. What are your thoughts about Fournette landing in Tampa?
Yeah, I think that Tampa's putting all their chips in the middle. They're giving Tom Brady everything that Bill Belichick wouldn't give him. They already had the weapons on the outside. They've got great tight ends. They had a great tight end there already. They brought Gronk down there. Now they bought, they got a running back that they were happy with there, but they brought in another back. You can never have enough. So I think they're putting all their chips to the middle and say, hey, we're going for it this year. We don't have that many years left. We don't know how many years left we're going to have with Tom Brady, with arguably one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. We don't know how long we're going to have with him, but the time that we do have with him, we're going to make sure that we give him everything that he needs in order to succeed and give us the best chance to win. So I'm happy for the player. Hopefully he can get there and straighten out his act a little bit. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there was just something there with Jacksonville that just didn't click with him. And, hopefully he can get on the right, because he's a very talented running back. So look forward to seeing what he can do this year with having a quality quarterback as well.
Well, the only thing wrong with Jacksonville, you get along with the front office. You don't get along with the front office, they're going to run you out the door anyways. But I ended up watching the guy play the last few years, especially last year. Leonard Fournette's a heck of a back. He really, really is. And he'll only get better. He doesn't have as much wear and tear on him as a lot of running backs. So I think there's a tremendous upside to Leonard Fournette. Hopefully the fresh start out in Tampa be good. But when you think about Tampa, you want to believe that their window is there. It would be unbelievable if, should they get to the Super Bowl, they'll be playing their own home stadium, too. That isn't a big incentive. Tell me what a big incentive really is.
Yeah, that's the first time that's ever been done. So, yeah, that's something that they, it's a tough ask to get there. It's even tougher ask to play it in your own stadium. So it'd be nice to see. Well,
Minnesota nearly pulled the trick a couple of years ago, but never.
If anybody can do it, it's Tampa.
Oh, I think so. I think they're really definitely built well to do it. No question about it. Let's talk about Adrian Peterson landing in Detroit.
So Adrian's 35 years old. He's got a lot of mileage on those legs. I guess it says a lot about their draft pick that they drafted a couple of years ago out of Auburn. I guess it says a lot about how they feel about him and bringing Adrian Peterson. I know they brought in Mo Scarborough late in the year. He actually played pretty well. The kid from Auburn has just had a problem staying healthy, staying on the football field. So Adrian's going to get an opportunity to maybe finish up his career up there in Detroit, back up there in the NFC North, maybe pass Barry Sanders on the all-time rushing list. Let's see what happens. I don't know how much playing time he's going to get. I don't know if he's going to be happy with the amount of playing time that he's going to get, because they do have quite a few running backs up there. When he was down with New Orleans, he wasn't very happy, and they ended up trading him to Arizona. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Hopefully they're committed to running the football. That's one thing that we've talked about with the Lions. They really have not been committed to running the football. They put all the pressure on the shoulders of Matthew Stafford, but hopefully this year they're committed to running the football a little bit to kind of take some of that pressure off of it.
Yeah, there's no question that Kerryon Johnson has definitely been plagued by the injury bug for sure. So, and of course DeAndre Swift from your neck of the woods, I know he's been dealing with some training camp type of injury, so you wonder about that. And both Scarborough have been put on the injured reserve, so the Lions definitely can use them. And I think from what I've heard, that with Peterson, the reason he joined the Detroit Lions because Darrell Bevell is offensive coordinator with Minnesota with the Lions. So I can understand the move. The Lions have tried a lot of different things with the running back position. Why not give Adrian Peterson a chance? It's all about keeping Matthew Stafford on his feet, not his back. You can't be one-dimensional with the passing game. You need a halfway decent running game, and they haven't been able to do that for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how that definitely plays out. All right, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben Roethlisberger says he's nervous for the season opener. He says, I'm going to be shaking like a leaf. Do you really believe he'll be shaking like a leaf?
No, but I believe he's excited. It's been a while since he's been out there. He missed pretty much all of last year with that elbow injury, and coming back from the injury, this is something that's foreign to him, something that he's never had to do. He spent the majority of last year watching his fellow teammates go out there and battle week in and week out, practice week in and week out. He was sidelined. So I'm sure he's chomping at the bit to get back out there and prove that he's still the same Ben Roethlisberger that he was prior to the injury. So I think he's just really excited and ready to get it going.
Okay, let's talk about the COVID-19 numbers, and these are really interesting. I talked about these last night on the Sports Exchange with Steve Ballesteri. He writes for the New England Patriots. He comes on every Wednesday night with me. And here are the numbers in terms of testing right now. Through August 30th to September 5th, there were 17,519 tests administered amongst 2,641 players, and only one confirmed positive test. That is unbelievable, isn't it?
Well, I think what it shows, and I think what the NBA has shown, is if you kind of control a lot of the variables, that you can control this virus. So if you take away a lot of things, and the guys are very, very careful about what they do once they leave the building, because it's not really an issue once they're in the building. When they're in the building, rather, it's really an issue of what do you do once you leave the building. And if the guys are being very, very careful when they're away from the building, you can control this thing. And that's, obviously the NBA has proven that, and the NFL, the NHL has proven that. The WNBA has proven that, and Major League Baseball to some extent, they've had success. I mean, when you look at the percentages versus the number of tests, the percentage positive versus the number of tests that have been administered, they're doing a good job of managing this thing. So the NFL has just looked at that. I mean, they didn't have to reinvent the wheel. They just kind of looked at that, make sure they test, and if they get it positive, they're going to isolate, and they're going to do contact tracing, and they're going to isolate, quarantine those individuals who may have been in contact with that person. So there's these sports leagues are showing how you can get back to doing things safely. That's what they're showing. But the big key is what you do once you leave that building. And so I'm not surprised by the numbers. I mean, these guys, the NFL, obviously these owners want to play, and I know these players want to play. So I'm glad the numbers, I was concerned about how they were going to be able to do it. We've talked about it on our show. I don't know. We said it a million times. I don't know how they're going to be able to do this.
Right.
But they seem to have been able to get their arms around it, and they're managing it very, very effectively, unlike, the majority of the country.
Yeah, well, MLB struggled with it for a while, but they acclimated and got it figured out is really what they did. So I'm actually glad that MLB stuck with it, because they could have canceled the season early as what they could, but Rob Manfred was persistent. We're going to figure this thing out, and a couple teams bit the bullet because of it. The Miami Marlins and the St. Louis Cardinals lost a lot of games, and now you have all these double headers. But you know what? And the NFL's gotten off easy. They've watched a lot of leagues go ahead and deal with it, so they were more prepared, and because their season just happened to be later in the year. If the NFL had been earlier, they would have certainly have dealt with some of the same fate that the other leagues. But they were the beneficiary of starting later in the year, for sure.
Yeah, no question about it. And I don't think I don't think really they thought that they would have to deal with it in September, which I didn't think they would have to deal with it either when this virus first came about. But unfortunately, the way it was handled, they ended up having to deal with it. They've come up with a plan, and they've executed that plan, and so far so good. And hopefully it will stay that way for the balance of the season.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I think it'll be interesting the first couple of weeks how things play out. Okay, because this is the first time that we're looking at live competition and see where this virus really, whether or not it indeed, rears its ugly head. So I think there'll be a lot of people anxious to find out. So let's talk about how many games do you think it will take for Tua to become the starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins?
You know, I was very adamant that Tua should sit the whole year. But I mean, if they're going to do it smart, if Fitzpatrick has been named the starter, if they're going to be smart about this, as long as they're in playoff contention, Fitzpatrick should be the quarterback. If at some point in time they're out of playoff contention, then by all means go out there and throw Tua out there. But I think Tua should sit as long as possible, if not the entire year. That was pretty similar to what Patrick Mahomes did in Kansas City his first year. I mean, he sat the majority of the year, and I think he came out and played class 2 or 3 games. I can't remember exactly what it was, but how many games it was. But he came out and played later on in the year. I think the longer he's able to sit and watch and learn how to be a professional and heal, I think it's better. That's the best case scenario for him. I mean, the best case scenario for any young quarterback is to be able to, gradually get thrown into the fire. Unfortunately, a guy like Joe Burrow, he doesn't have a choice. They have no quarterback there, so they're going to throw him to the lines early, and he's going to struggle because it's a different ball game than what he's been accustomed to, and he hasn't had the opportunity to have preseason and things of that nature to get acclimated to the speed of the game, even though he played at a high level. Played high-level football at LSU, so the speed of the game may not be that big of a difference, but there's going to be a lot of different nuances dealing with NFL defenses and how they're able to disguise their coverages and things of that nature that he may not have seen at the college level, where it might have been a little bit more vanilla.
Oh, no question about it. No OTAs. You have to do everything virtual, and all of a sudden your first game action. And I've said this all along on a lot of other broadcasts. It's going to take these teams at least 2 or 3 games to figure out what type of team that they have. I remember back in the old USFL, they never had preseason games back in the 80s, so they didn't know what they had until week 3 or 4. So I think this could very well be the same thing, although with the NFL, you better figure it out pretty quick. And maybe the only teams that get out to a good start are the veteran teams that have actually been together for a while, but you never can tell. I mean, all it takes is one outbreak and everything gets out of whack. You have roster sizes where you have the practice squad of 10 plus the 6 veterans, so you have more jobs for emergency quarter. I mean, Josh McCown got a sweet deal with the Philadelphia Eagles, right? The guy gets to stay in Texas, do all the virtual meetings as an emergency quarterback. So, but you never know when you're going to need these individuals at any given time. And I think when we talked about the New England Patriots situation earlier, they had Brian Hoyer, obviously, who's part of that New England Patriots system, Jared Stidham. But when you're able to get Cam Newton cheap, then obviously they were fortunate enough that they were able to low investment. And I'm sure the Patriots won't have a problem paying him next year if he's worth the money that he's commanding. So let's talk about another interesting face moving to a different place. And you danced around it earlier. Now we'll talk about Phillip Rivers in Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's a good situation for him. Because obviously he's got some history there with a coach or somebody. So it was kind of a nice landing spot for him. They got a good offensive line as long as they can keep him upright. They got a good running game. They got a good defense. They're a very, very solid football team. So it gives them an opportunity to maybe get one, get a Super Bowl. But he has nothing left in his legs. I mean, he can still throw the football, but his legs, he has nothing left in his legs. Right. So it'll be interesting to see. But they got Jacoby Brissett there to back him up. Obviously, he's a very capable quarterback. Been started there for a couple of years, so it says a lot about what they think about Jacoby, obviously. And if I'm Jacoby, then I'm really having to take a look at myself in the mirror and try to get out there each and every day and get better, so that I never find myself in this type of situation again, where they're bringing in some old man to take my place because they think he's better than me. So.
No, that's
so it'll be interesting. They're a good football. They're a good football team. So we'll see what Phillip Rivers can bring to them. Once he keep those turnovers down, they should have a chance.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's reunited with Frank Wright, and he also has Jonathan Taylor, whom they drafted out of Wisconsin, and you can't forget T.Y. Hilton. So you definitely have some workable pieces there by all means. So and they actually go ahead and take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. So. Nobody's expecting a whole lot out of Jacksonville anyways. But, again, Frank, now the one thing I should point out to you about Indianapolis' game against the Jaguars is that Indianapolis is 1-9 in its past 10 openers, including 6 straight losses. Just a little FYI for you. So, obviously, that's just one little nugget. Will that matter?
Well, I feel pretty confident in saying that they'll break that streak this year.
Well, yeah, obviously the makeover that the Jaguars have had in the offseason.
I mean, they lose to Jacksonville. I mean, geez, that doesn't say a whole lot about Indianapolis. That's for certain. Because Jacksonville, they're not going to be a good football team this year.
No, they're not. But amazingly enough, one of our writers, David Levin, doesn't seem to think that Doug Marrone will be on the hot seat because of the fact that they're doing this rebuild. He might buy another year. Now, David's a credible source of ours, in Jacksonville. But you're right. It'll be interesting to see how it plays. But the Colts, when you think about it, I signed Rivers for a 1-year, $25 million deal. So, obviously, they know that, to me, I think that it's a nice fresh start for Phillip Rivers by all means. Let's talk about tonight's game again. Why don't you give me a score on the Chiefs-Texans game?
I got the Chiefs, man. I think the Chiefs are going to win this one here, and I think it'll be a close game. But I think the Chiefs will prevail. I'd say it's 35-28.
You really think 20? Yeah, I kind of disagree with you there, only because of the fact that I think they'll be ramped up. But, I would probably myself would probably take Kansas City to win maybe like 35-21. But the biggest factor to me is DeAndre Hopkins, to me, is going to be, I think that, without a doubt, the Hopkins-Deshaun Watson combination would go ahead and scare a lot of people. So let me go over a few games. You can give me some predictions if you want. Okay? Well, you've already given me your Texans, Chiefs, so let's break down every game and just give me your winners and losers. You got the Bears and the Lions.
The Bears, well, yeah, I mean, this is really a pick-em game here, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
The Bears have a terrible quarterback. They didn't do anything. I mean, I know they've been saying a lot of great things about Mitchell Trubisky this year, but at the end of the day, he's still the same guy. And because of that fact, I'm gonna go ahead and say the Lions on that game.
Oh, you're gonna pick the Lions? Well, they're playing in Detroit. That helps. So
there's not gonna be any fans there.
Well, that's all right. It would doesn't, like you said, doesn't really matter at this particular point once you go in the tunnel and you think about the game, right?
Yeah.
So that's what you said. So you're gonna go with the Lions. All right, you talked about the Colts beating the Jaguars. Went over that. Candy will be anxious to find out what you think about the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings up in Minneapolis.
Yeah, I'd have to go with the Vikings.
Okay, well, that's fair. All right. Seahawks against the Falcons.
Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm not sure how good Atlanta will be anyways. How about the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens?
Yeah, Baltimore, without question.
It'll be a tough opener for Browns' new coach. How about the Jets and the Buffalo Bills?
Oh, Buffalo. Yeah. I mean, the Jets they're a train wreck right now.
Yeah, they really are. Le'Veon Bell doesn't want to be there. Adam Gase isn't qualified. So.
But they're always, there's always some kind of little bickering between the two of them. And, so, yeah, without question. And then they got rid of their safety, didn't they? They got rid of Jamal Adams. right? I think he went to Seattle.
Right.
So they're a mess.
Yeah, they are. Don't tell that to Mike Greenberg of ESPN because he's been crying for a long time. But then again, at least his team made it to a Super Bowl and won it, even though most of that generation wasn't born. Unfortunately, Detroit, I haven't seen the beneficiary of the Lions getting the Super Bowl, but thanks to them, I've gotten it four. So now, the first game in the Las Vegas Raiders era, but it'll be in Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina's going to try out a new quarterback this year. Well, even though they played with one more last year, so I mean, it's got a guy who's got some experience. But yeah, I'd have to go with the Raiders. Got a new coach there in Carolina. Guy came from college, so there's a lot of adjustments there. Not only with the coach, but also with the players, learning a whole new offense, all that kind of stuff. So I got to go with Las Vegas.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, the game down up in New England, the Miami Dolphins are taking on the New England Patriots. This will be an interesting one.
New England always has a hard time with Miami, and obviously, Miami beat them last year at the end of the year, which cost them the number one seed, I believe it was, or at least a bye week in the playoffs last year. New England is trying out a new quarterback this year, trying to learn a new system. As much as I like Cam and want to see him do well, I think that Miami will win this game.
Well, I don't know. Let me go with the Dolphins. Well, you know what? Like you said, I remember one time they've had a lot of interesting rivalries over the year. I think two of the games that actually stand out in that rivalry was when the snowplow game, when Miami lost it 3-0, and another one is when they brought out that Wildcat offense and threw the Patriots defense out of whack, and the Dolphins shellacked them in that game. But so you're right, anything could happen. But you know what? I don't know. For some reason, my gut feeling is telling me that I'm going to go with the Dolphins in this one as well. I don't know why. It's just a weird feeling I have. Maybe those are the best ones. Okay, now the Philadelphia Eagles against the Washington football team.
Washington's got a new coach. They got the young quarterback there that's probably going to, that I assume is Dwayne Haskins going to be starting. He's won the starting job. I think that Philadelphia will win this game.
I'd be curious to find out how many games you think Jalen Hurts will actually start for the Eagles. I know that Carson Wentz has had injury difficulties, and Jalen Hurts has been a winning quarterback at Alabama and Oklahoma.
Well, being a winning quarterback in college doesn't necessarily translate to being a productive quarterback in a league. Again, like I said, when he was drafted, I was happy for the player. There's a lot of things that I think Jalen actually digressed throughout the college year. As time went on, and kind of relied on his natural athletic ability versus really challenging himself by throwing the football. I think at the beginning of the year, he really challenged himself by throwing the football. I think towards the end of the year, I don't know if this was because the coach told him to do this or what, but I think he bailed out a lot. I think he bailed out early. And the reason why I say that, being a good college quarterback doesn't necessarily translate to being a good professional quarterback is because obviously Tim Tebow was a winner in college as well, one of the best winners in college.
Right.
And, I would have definitely drafted him just because he was a winner. But unfortunately, that didn't work out well for him in the NFL. He kind of bounced around a little bit, and now he's playing baseball. So yeah, I'd love to see him have the opportunity. I hope he's learning a lot. I hope I hope they're coaching him up real well. And if he gets an opportunity to play, that he goes out there and he shows what he's capable of doing.
Yeah, what I like about Jalen Hurts, though, he's in the right situation with Doug Peterson, a former quarterback. Tim Tebow, to me, you're right. Some guys are only college quarterbacks. Now, again, I've always thought that career suicide for Tim Tebow would have been when he had the chance to go to Jacksonville. That would have been his best opportunity to play pro football. Instead, he got sold by Rex Ryan to be a gimmick quarterback up in New York, and how that turned out. So. Yeah,
personal protector and all that kind of stuff bulked him up to like 240 pounds or something.
Exactly.
That was not a good move for him, without question.
Oh, I wrote on that, and I sent that story to my good friend who's the vice president of public relations. He actually thought the story was pretty good. I thought Tebow made a mistake by not going to Jacksonville. But Jalen Hurts, I think, will be all right. Now, again, they can use him in multiple formations, as a mobile quarterback coming out. I can see Jalen Hurts actually turning out to be like a Cordell Stewart type of guy. And we both know that Cordell Stewart was not a bad football player at all by any stretch. But again, you talk about Doug Peterson. I would put my money on Hurts to do well with the Eagles, and I think that's what Doug Peterson had in mind, / Cordell Stewart, who, by the way, was named /. All right, now a very interesting matchup here. The L.A. Chargers against the Cincinnati Bengals. You alluded to Joe Burrow. This game is actually in Cincinnati. What are your thoughts about Joe Burrow's first act over by the riverfront, by the Ohio River?
Well, it's unfortunate. Cincinnati is, they have a lot of holes in their roster. It's unfortunate that the best player goes to the worst team, but it's just kind of the way the deal's set up. He's going to struggle. He's going to struggle early. He's going to struggle often, and Cincinnati's going to struggle. They're not a very good football team, and I don't expect them to be a very good football team this year. So it's just Cincinnati and Detroit, they're kind of the same. Although Cincinnati has gone to the Super Bowl, which is something our lines have not done. So, but they haven't been very good for a very, very long time. They got a new coach there. They got a new quarterback there. It's like the coach is in there for a first year quarterback, and they're going to struggle. And, the Chargers got Tyrod Taylor. He's steady. He's not going to make mistakes. He can do a lot of different things too. Get outside the pocket and make plays happen as well. They got some weapons on the outside, and so I look for the Chargers to win this football game.
Yeah, well, I know Joe Mixon signed an extension, AJ Green is back, but I think it's going to take a whole lot more. And you're right, Joe Burrow's definitely going to take a few lumps. 3 more games we're going to get to. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are over in New Orleans, take on the Saints. You have the Tom Brady, Drew Brees matchup. I hear this was the first time that Tom Brady's been an underdog in like 74 games. So, but again, he's going to New Orleans. You have 2 future Hall of Fame guys going at each other. Another intriguing aspect of this rivalry. Where are you going with this one?
This is going to be a good football game. This is going to be a good football game that you're going to want to watch. Obviously, Sean Payton and Drew Brees has some continuity there as far as, they've been together for a long time. They bring back a lot of the guys on offense. Alvin Kamara may not be all that happy right now because, he wants a new contract. He wants to be paid on the same level as the guy up there in Carolina and the other running back that just got paid. I can't remember the name of him, but he'd like to get a little bit more money. But I think Tom Brady has a lot to prove. A lot that he wants to prove. He wants to prove that he can win without Bill Belichick. I think Tom Brady he'll be excited for this game. He'll be ready for this game. I think he's excited because of the weapons that he has, that he's never had up there in New England, where, the 2 wide receivers, you got 2 tight ends he can throw the ball to, and then he's got a running game as well, legitimate running game. So I think he's going to be excited for it, and I think that Tampa Bay will win. Yeah, I think Tampa Bay will come out and win this game.
Yeah, they got some horses, too. Don't lose sight of the fact that New Orleans does have Jameis Winston, so he won't be playing in the game. I'm sure he'll certainly give Sean Payton and the rest of his staff a few of the extra tidbits about the Buccaneers you wouldn't get otherwise. But, yeah, I like Tampa. I think they're looking awfully good, for sure. So let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals and the San Francisco 49ers. Of course, these last few games I've talked about, especially these other ones, you got the Cardinals and the 49ers. The late game, 425. We all know what the Cardinals did. They added DeAndre Hopkins. Of course, they have Kyler Murray. The 49ers, runners-up in the Super Bowl. Is Jimmy Garoppolo going to be able to rebound a little bit? Because I know that teams that get to the Super Bowl don't struggle usually the year after, and now San Francisco's in that conversation.
Yeah, I think, another year in that offense. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be a little bit more comfortable. They just paid the tight end a lot of money up there, so I'm sure he's really excited. They got some real good receivers on the outside. They got, they paid Mostert a little bit of money, gave him a little bit of money to keep him happy up there in San Francisco. I don't know if the other running backs, the fullback, I don't know if he's healthy, and McKinnon, I don't know if he's healthy, but there's been some guys that they got there that they have not been able to utilize, and they got a lot of talent on that roster. I think they just have way more firepower than Arizona. Plus, they got a good defense with Bosa there. So I see San Francisco winning this football game easily. Because like I said, Jimmy he's in this offense. He's going to be comfortable in this offense. Another year in this offense. Kyle Shanahan is, obviously he's a great play caller. I trust him a lot more than I trust the coach down there in Arizona. So I think that San Francisco will win this game easy.
Yeah, well, I think you're right. George Kittle is definitely one of the best tight ends in football, and the 49ers. Anytime you have a great tight end to complement your quarterback, it does make life a lot easier. And I give you, there's no doubt about it, Kyle Shanahan by far and away is a lot more of a proven commodity than Cliff Kingsbury. Now, here's an interesting one on Sunday night. Okay, the Dallas Cowboys take on the LA Rams in the new stadium in Southern California. Of course, Jerry, from what I heard today, some of his contractors helped build that stadium, and he was instrumental in getting the Rams back to LA. So it's only fitting that Jerry Jones is playing in a new stadium for the Rams, and both of them have beautiful stadiums. So the Cowboys or the Rams, who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I mean, the Rams are coming off a down year, obviously. Cowboys, they're coming off one of their normal years, so just an average year. But the Rams had they had high expectations. They lose a running back. They let Todd Gurley go.
Yeah.
They have a lot to prove. They didn't play that well last year. Obviously, the Cowboys, every year there's high expectations. The owner has high expectations every year. The football team, they drafted another wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb out of Oklahoma, to give Dak Prescott another weapon. They lost their tight end, though. He went to Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. So they lost Jason Witten. So, this is a tough.
I know.
To call, to be honest with you. Because really the two mediocre teams, in my opinion, right now. But if I had to pick a team, put a gun to my head, I had to pick a team, I guess I'd go with the Cowboys.
I don't want to do that to you, but Jason Witten, by the way, did go to Las Vegas to join John Gruden.
Las Vegas, okay.
No big deal. It's okay. Not a big deal. He did go there. Who knows how much of a role he'll have with Vegas, but at least you know that his experience will keep the other guys in line and settle them down. You can never have enough good coaches on the field by any stretch. So, I mean, if there were fans there, I would probably give the Rams the edge in this game because you're opening up a brand new playpen and all that, but there aren't any. So, to say that like anything else in the NHL and the NBA, what you would normally think would be home field advantage isn't. So it's just what you guys do. It's called playground football, isn't it? Without any fans.
Yep.
So I would normally say the Rams if there were fans. But, I don't know. You're right. It's a pick'em game. And no, we're not going to hold a gun to your head. So leave it alone. I need you all year, and I need you as long as I can keep you. So we'll leave that stuff away. Monday night, Pittsburgh against the Giants.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. I mean, I think I think Ben Roethlisberger is excited to be back playing. He's got they got some weapons there. They got some toys there. The defense is going to be solid because it's going to be a Mike Tomlin coach defense. And, the Giants, they got a new quarterback. They got a new coach. So they got a new system. But they got a second-year quarterback. But they got a first-year head coach, somebody who's never even been a coordinator before. And so this, he's walking in some tall cotton right now. That head coach up there. It's going to be a whole new, different experience for him.
Joe Judge.
So I expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to win this football game and win it pretty easily. Put a lot of pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, Joe Judge on national television against a Super Bowl winning coach. I agree with you. Now, one more intriguing matchup, second game of the Monday night doubleheader as the Tennessee Titans against the Denver Broncos. Now, this game's interesting because Jerry Jeudy is now a member of the Denver Broncos. I saw him play against the Michigan Wolverines in Orlando. What a player he is. So, Drew Lock, I think they believe they have their quarterback. But the question is Ryan Tannehill the real deal? That, to me, remains a mystery. I know we all know about Derrick Henry being solid, but how do you like who you got in this one?
Yeah, I don't think it really matters about what Tannehill does. As long as he's able to do what he did last year, the Titans stick enough of him, they gave him a new contract, paid him pretty well. So, as long as they're able to run the football, do that play action, they got some good receivers out there on the outside. The guy from Mississippi will be his second year. The guy they drafted out of Mississippi had a real good year last year. Very impressed with what they do defensively. They play very, very well. They just added another piece there, didn't they? They just got somebody, Stephen Clowney. So they're going to put some pressure on Drew Lock. Von Miller is out. He's not playing. He might miss the season because of an ankle injury. So I take Tennessee to win this football game.
Yeah, we talk about familiar players landing with coaches, and you're right. Davian Clowney signs at Tennessee mainly because of his relationship with Mike Vrabel, who was his coach with Houston. And the same can be said about Adrian Peterson landing in Detroit with Darrell Bevell. So there are a lot of guys where, especially during an off season where you can't work anybody out, word of mouth recommendation, that kind of stuff lands you a contract. That's what you've got there. Good point about Davian Clowney. So all in all, I think we've had a great time tonight, like we always do, Mel. So with that said, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know how they can get a hold of you and what you stand for, and then we'll do the same here. You're listening to the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, along with Mel Farr. We do this every Thursday night, right, Mel? And he gives us our NFL analysis, and it's always great to have Mel on the broadcast. We appreciate his insights, not only as a former player, but a guy that also works with you. So go ahead, Mel, take it away.
Yeah, you can catch me on all the social media sites, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Catch me at Mel Farr Jr. My email address is melfarjr@gmail.com. And then you can check out what we have going on in Atlanta and in Detroit for the high school youth up there at melfar.org.
Very good. Okay. You're listening to the Sports Exchange. This broadcast can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. If I'm talking too quick, I'll say it again. Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. All you have to do is simply subscribe, and then you'll be able to hear all of our broadcasts. To follow us on social media, feel free to do so at Tribune South on Twitter. That's at Tribune South. Facebook, you can follow the South Florida Tribune page. Instagram, South Florida Tribune. We have a YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. Mel and I will be doing this down the line, and we'll be able to visualize our broadcast, right, Mel? Looking forward to doing that as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. We're doing a lot more of these, and I'm enjoying it because it certainly gives the effect that we're definitely in the studio together. Although we have a good time audio, but why not bring up the visual component as well? Website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can find our media distribution partners that provide us information, columnists, as well as the broadcast can be found there as well. If you want to email, feel free to do so, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And, of course, my name is Scott Morganroth on LinkedIn. So, by all means, let's go ahead and connect, and I'll be more than happy to reach out to you. So, Mel, hope you enjoy week one. Tonight, we certainly have an interesting contest. Kansas City hosting Houston at Arrowhead Stadium. Even though it won't be loud tonight, I have a feeling there will be a lot of yards. And I'll be anxious to see how Houston's offense performs tonight, with all the different changes that they made. So before we end the broadcast, I want to make sure that we let everybody know that COVID-19 is out there. It's real. Mask up, social distance, use common sense and courtesy, and kudos to our frontline workers, doctors, nurses, and so forth. We are not out of the woods with COVID-19. I have a feeling that we may not be out of them for a while. But meanwhile, Mel, great to have you on the broadcast, and get ready for some Thursday night football here on the Sports Exchange. Once again, on behalf of Mel Farr Jr., my name is Scott Morgan, around the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange.